Welcome back to DreamHack Masters Winter. It is Championship Sunday and we've got mousesports versus Astralis. This is the head-to-head we've been waiting for all week, and only one can be crowned our champion. And only one of you guys, in fact I'm lying, multiple of you guys can feel like a champion right now, because it is time for our final sports buff of the European region. So keep your eyes open for that Twitch extension in your Twitch chat right now so that you can answer this question. All right. Who has the best KD of the European region as it stands right now? Is it A?
Robs.
Device. B. Bubsky. C. Dupree. Or D. BMass? Not Rops, no, just because he's got the best hair.
You didn't put the option there, but it's the answer.
Is that what you've decided? Maybe it will be the answer after this grand final, but it's not as it currently stands right now, which obviously surprises you.
A little bit, yeah. It could be Device. I mean, it could be any of them, I guess. I don't want to spoil anything, but I've already rocked, so who knows?
You can't spoil it. I couldn't even do any eyebrows or suggestive winks during that one, because I have no idea either, because the producer read the question to me during the break, so I actually don't know. But here we are. We're looking at the story of how we got to Mouse versus Astralis, and it was a little shaky start for Astralis because they lost to Godsent, so I wasn't quite expecting them to pal up in the way that they have.
It's something that Astralis tend to do. We have playoff Astralis, right? They just get better and better as the tournament goes on. Glaive said they're going to change stuff coming into the tournament. Oops, they lose to Godsent. Down to the lower bracket instantly. The least likely team to beat them, maybe besides like North in the whole event, right? And then we see Godsent, or they actually were pretty good, and they got pretty far. They got to the playoffs as well, so they legitimized that result versus Astralis. And then we see that Astralis didn't just falter super hard, right? They lost to a team that was good on Nuke and had an upset happen, and then they ended up getting slowly better and better as the tournament progressed, to the point that, you know, Gambit was a really big test as they had a superstar run all the way to playoffs, and then they beat them 2-0, and then they got to the point where it's like, okay, Furia, this will be the biggest test. And then it's even more one-sided. So every single game, Astralis have made it less and less competitive, all the way up until now where they play against Mouse.
Well, hopefully you guys have noticed on screen right now the hashtags you need to vote in Twitch chat. We'll be revealing your prediction at the end of our discussion and the map vetoes. Hashtag mouse or hashtag AST. Cast your vote right now as we turn our attention to mousesports, because they have had this incredible rebuild in the last month or so. They won the Blast Showdown, and that gave them extra confidence going into this one. And now they've just blazed through the upper bracket, and they really look like they were the form they were on, I guess, last year when they were winning ESL Pro Tour, for example. ESL Pro Tour. They haven't won that yet, I should say, ESL Pro League. So they definitely look like they're in great shape. Do you feel like this version of Mouse is maybe more versatile than the one we've seen before, Launders?
It's just more filled out. I think when they hired every single player on the team, this is what they expected. But that's not what they got for the last 5 months. Development of BMass, Kerrigan and Chris J's form being absolutely abysmal, losing their coach, not anybody except for Rops and the occasional Frozen performance to keep them afloat. But now everybody is earning their paychecks on the team, and we see them all be instrumental components, as well as the fact that Kerrigan has been calling just as well as he ever has been.
There is a phrase that you sometimes use that I love, which is earning his flowers or getting his flowers.
Getting his flowers, yeah.
And someone who I feel like is starting to get his little posies coming in through the casting and through the post is Frozen. It feels like he's getting more and more attention. Why do you think he's suddenly, I guess, showing up, or at least being noticed for showing up now?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many comparisons between mousesports getting in a player like Rops and getting a player like Frozen. Frozen was, you know, a guy who was making it onto Reddit post when he was 13 years old for how good he was, and then he was a guy that was regarded in the same breath as Rops at the superstar level coming into mousesports, but he's never had the personality to match it, and not the same level of a luster and allure as Rops has had with that, you know, everyone JW calling him a cheater in FPL. Frozen's just flown under the radar. No one thought he cheated. He's just been very good. And now his performances have slowly gotten better to the point that he's the best player in the world at some of his positions on maps. And that's just, yeah, it's just a matter of personality that doesn't stand out as much. But if he was more popular, we would be talking about him more.
Well, Scrawny, I'd love to talk to you about Chris J, but before I do, we're actually going to hear from the man himself. Oh.
Hey.
We've lost Chris, so we're just going to talk about him behind his back because he had a little bit of a shaky start yesterday against Godsent on the first.
Robs. He's 50.
50 to 2 and an off ace and just a lot of off kills.
Freaking hell. Oh my god. Nobody can get this man off his ankle.
You play CS at this level for these finals, for these deep tournament runs, because the matches are just with so much energy and you just feel that there's more on the line, which makes it a lot more fun to play. I'm just super happy after this really long bad period we had to finally reach a final again. It's amazing.
The push through from Frozen, he's there to support. The surprise factor of Frozen leaves them stunned. Madden, anyone left alive. A flawless round for mousesports.
Compared to the last few months, I feel like with this lineup now and in this tournament, we definitely have more energy than we did have at some point. We just gotta hype each other up, you know, keep each other in the game.
Nobody else alongside him. And wait, no, Chris J. There was a player close, but he gets him through the smoke. And all of a sudden it's a 5v2. It comes crumbling around Cloud9. They powered up. Oh, not like this! Kerrigan, you're nasty.
Astralis obviously insane team still, like that lineup has achieved the most compared to anyone else in the scene, right? But they've not been as dominant as they once were. We obviously cannot underestimate them. It's gonna be a tough match, but I feel like we're ready for them.
Fantastic to hear from Chris J himself. But yeah, he did have a bit of a shaky start against Godsent, although he redeemed himself on Inferno, coming back in time to put off some great shots. What are your thoughts on Chris J and his opening role? Do you feel like there's still more to come from him?
I think there always can be, because this is an op player who is a careered sniper rifle player. You know, he wasn't confident in his form, say, like a week ago. I think that he's given us these kind of hit or miss type performances, and then yesterday when it was a little off the mark, they still picked up the victory. They don't need Chris J. It's just that when he takes over servers, it's all the easier for mousesports. And that's why I wanted to ask Robs yesterday in that post-game interview, like, what are your thoughts with Chris J maybe being hot and cold? Said it doesn't matter. If Chris is missing shots, he's missing shots, and we'll just pick it up anyways. And sure enough, they did win. It could have been more convincing, but it doesn't seem like mousesports rely on him to take them over because they know that the talent runs deep.
That's Godsent though. This is Astralis. Launders, do you agree? Does it matter if Chris J shows up?
Yeah, no, it does. It's just that he's not Woxic on this team, right? He's not the player who the round is based around. He gets a couple of key kills here and there, and if he misses, they can lose a round. And I think for Robs, it was just when you win a match, you don't really care who did what, right? If you win the match, that's all that matters. If you talk to a team after a loss, they might think more about who was off individually and start to find reasons why they lost the map. But again, this team is so much more than just Chris, and it is about everybody working together. And it's been hard normally when we talk about these rosters. We want to shine a spotlight on one or two players, but right now there's like 3 or even 4 stories on mousesports that are all looking good and need to be given their own time.
Well, let's talk about Astralis then, because what we saw from them yesterday was clearly an Astralis that were ready to take on Furia. They knew Furia were going to have practice for them, and so they decided to just mind game Furia and in some ways beat them at their own game.
No one's ever played that well versus Furia in this last year, and Astralis showed us that a game plan could absolutely do that. They picked the reasons, they picked a way to show Art that there was no space for him, and when he did show his face, that they would pick the right site every single round. And that's why it also didn't feel like it had a lot to do with the frags on Overpass. And then when they needed to turn up the tempo, when Furia started on the T side on Nuke, they decided to match that aggression and match the firepower as well.
Well, let's talk about Device then, because I'm wondering, Device's performance, particularly on Nuke yesterday, drove you boys absolutely round the bend, and I was all here for it. And I'm just wondering, was that
can you do, my
a deliberate tactical decision? Oh, hold that thought.
Buy.
Dupree with What is it, these late round USP headshot kills by Device? Oh, it's coming. You can feel it. Oh, I'll take a look on the other side. It would be a head. Oh, what is with these late round USP shots in the head? What is that?
Oh, but Device finds it yet again. Device is set to die. 8-0.
Well, Dupree will pick up the slack. 2 for him. Art comes up with his knife out and again!
Peeks out, dies to Art. Yuri!
Why?
It's the pistol!
He did it again!
He hasn't died!
He keeps...
That's a little bit awkward, but they could just close with kills. Another headshot comes in.
I really hope that that clip is made available on the DreamHack CS socials, because whenever I'm sad, I'm literally just going to revisit that clip. But my question was, do you think that Device was deliberately playing like that just to antagonize Furia yesterday?
No, he was just in God mode. I mean, he has been in God mode this whole tournament. And when we talk about Device, when I'm casting Device, I'm always going to point out that none of the shots he hits are difficult because he's usually the smartest player in the server. Every single op shot he gets, he'll be holding the correct angle, predicting where his opponents will be, never having to flick more than 30 or 40 degrees, winning most of his clutch rounds, literally the smartest player most of the time.
But what about Glaive? Because I really am curious to think about what you expect from his approach to mousesports today. Because we saw the carefully prepared game plan against Furia. They played their trump card of Bubsky and play specifics on Nuke. I'm just wondering what they're going to pull out the bag this time.
I mean, there can be a counterplay here, right? I think just because of the best of 5 format, it's going to be very difficult for mousesports. They've got a couple of maps that maybe they'll be able to slip through, but you've got to be prepared for Glaive to have a game plan on every single turn you take in this BO5 series. There are pieces that can be countered, and it depends on what look we're going to get out of Astralis, because I don't think anybody expected what we did or what we saw when it got to Nuke yesterday. You know, Overpass, we were all kind of nervously laughing, like, it's just, they're going to rebound. And then all of a sudden in Nuke, when we saw that form from both the individuals and the calling, and just a straight up heads up challenge versus the aggression of Furia. They went fire versus fire. It was the match of fire versus ice, but it was Astralis that just engulfed the server in flames. And that wasn't just Glaive's calling, but everybody showing up.
Shall we hear from Dupree?
Sure.
All right then, let's hear from Peter.
Throughout DreamHack Masters, we've encountered both a little bit ups and downs. We started out losing to Godsend, which obviously wasn't going as planned, but we had to go through the lower bracket and playing knockout games already. So I think we've gone through a lot of really good teams, and that just brings a lot of confidence. And now we just need the last scalp, which is mousesports, which has also been playing amazingly throughout this tournament. So it's going to be interesting.
And of course, they're going to have to be on high alert. They don't have much to work with as they're about to exit on the tunnels. Dupree delivers the first shot, but it was never meant to be Amanek that clutched this. All on Nectar, and now she do have nothing.
Going up against mousesports today is going to be really interesting in the way that we've had a little bit of a bumpy fall, but at the same time I think mousesports has as well. The fact that they have made roster changes and been changing their coach and everything, it seems like they are trying to find themselves, but I think they have proven themselves throughout DreamHack Masters right now. And the same have we, so it's like, I feel like it's a bit of the two best teams in the tournament going up against each other now today in the final, which is really great.
No rotation in. Could be a good opportunity to fight.
Bex could get that first challenge, finds the headshot. Dragging a little bit late, also going to add a kill to the tower. Let's the 3 versus 5. This is it. Astralis looking to eliminate Gambit, and they will.
The expectations of today is definitely that we're going to win. But overall, I'm just excited to play today, and I think it's going to be a really good matchup.
I have no doubt that Dupree is going to be on full Dalek mode in the server as well, exterminating mousesports later. But we'll see very shortly when our grand final kicks off. Let's talk about 2 players, one from each team, because we've got our Epics cards head to head. And first of all, Scrawny, who have you got?
I got Glaive. Back at the reins of Astralis. I mean, he has a lot of pieces to work with in terms of just creating this all-star roster. We know what this team can accomplish. they were just, I mean, they were dominant once upon a time. Then they went dormant for a little bit of time. And now it seems like the beast has awoken. It's not 5 new pieces, but it's just the 5 pieces back into the control of Glaive that I think really takes this to the next level. We saw it versus Liquid to start off their lower bracket run. That was one of the best called Vertigo T-sides, so many little mind games and mid-round rotations, and we thought to ourselves, like, how are they pulling this off? Only to find out, after the match was finished, that of course that was Glaive's first game back full IGL mode, and it was very obvious. He knows how to use these pieces so perfectly.
And Launda, speaking of IGL's gone wild.
We really saw with Kerrigan, especially versus Heroic, where he was putting himself out there, finding timings on their T-sides to take opening duels, win those opening duels, sometimes getting double entries on Inferno. And after the storyline of Cloud9 and Alex at the helm of Cloud9, how good he was at reading into his opponents, we really saw a next level with Kerrigan when he outcalled him on Dust 2, outcalled him on Nuke. And that was when it was like, whoa, Kerrigan, he's really showing us that a game plan can go even farther and look even more serious. I mean, he had Alex not even knowing why they lost in their post-game interview. And that means, for me, that these are the 2 best IGLs coming into this matchup.
Well, let's talk maps, because this is a best-of-5 grand final. We know what they're going to veto, right? So Mouse, they're going to get rid of Overpass, and then Astralis are going to get rid of Mirage. So really it comes down to what order we're going to see these maps in.
It does, yeah. So the one interesting one for me is where Inferno will come in. So I think that Astralis might take Inferno right off the bat, but they have options. They can take it to Dust 2 as well, and I think that would be weird for mousesports to ban Inferno. So I imagine Dust 2 would be a good place for Astralis to start. And for mousesports, it's not really many good options. I would say Nuke is something they could think about.
Yep.
And, oh, okay,
Train,
yeah, Train's
that's
actually
the other
another
option.
one too, yeah. So it is scary always to play Astralis on Train, like just famously a really strong map for them. But when I talked about Frozen in some of his very best positions, I think he's one of the best, if not the best ladder player in the game. So him on Train will be a big one to watch. And then we've got Nuke and Vertigo in the next 2 with a final on Dust 2. I'm surprised that Astralis left it to the end. But, you know, we might not even see the end.
We might not, yeah. I think that Nuke and Train are kind of my win conditions for mousesports. We've seen them be tested by Godsent twice in this event. The 2 maps that mousesports have lost so far at DreamHack Masters were on Nuke, both times versus Godsent. Astralis haven't lost a map since losing to Godsent. And then Train is like another one where I think Astralis could perform well, but I think that, like you said, mousesports are kind of pinned into a corner here with the best of 5 and Vertigo. You know, Vertigo is a question mark, a big question mark for me. We know Astralis played super well, but I would think that mousesports would prefer Dust 2 as opposed to Vertigo. Yeah,
they've only played it, I think, 3 times recently. They just have a really high win percentage, but they also, I think they've run into Cloud9 twice on it, so the stat might be inflated a little bit for mousesports when it comes to Vertigo, but the confidence maybe will be there. But either way, I mean, there's not a map here that's a gimme. All of these maps will be happy to be played by both teams, and that's obviously the allure of Kerrigan as an IGL, strong map pool.
Well, gentlemen, it's time for your final predictions of DreamHack Masters Winter. Who have you got?
I think I'm going to go 3-1 Astralis.
It's definitely going to be Astralis, and 3-1 sounds right, but you know what? It's the final day of the broadcast, so I'm going to say this one goes the distance. Let's do a 3-2 Astralis all the way.
I am also going to say Astralis. I think it's going to be a 3-0. I don't know why. I feel like it's going to be a 3-0, and also I want to say something slightly different to you boys. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, get your snacks, get your monster energy, because it is nearly time for our grand final DreamHack Masters Winter, mousesports versus Astralis.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Championship Sunday. We've got Astralis, we've got mousesports, and we have got that best of 5 finals feeling. It is time to find out who is the champion of DreamHack Masters Winter. My name is Frankie Ward. I have got Scrawny and Launders joining me on this final leg of our journey. And just before we get into it, just a little reminder of these teams as they faced each other. Since the player break, they've faced each other 3 times. Astralis have won every single time. And I don't know if we should take much away from that, because Mouse are looking incredibly different. Chris J seems really happy with the way they're playing now, and he didn't earlier this week. And Astralis have got all their pieces back, as you said earlier.
Yeah, this is not about anything else. Wipe the board clean, tabula rasa coming into this event. For mousesports, they know they were always capable of this, but they never proved it earlier. So their confidence has never been higher. As to this moment, right before this final, compared to the rest of this year, I'll tell you that on their behalf, that they should feel confident. It is going to be their absolute hardest opponent, but it is absolutely no fluke that they got this far. They've had a hard run, so have Astralis, both teams that have made it here, double bracket elimination, and they have earned their spots here in this grand final.
So talk to me about Train. Why did Mouse pick this as their opening map?
I think Mouse picked this because of the fact that they have all of the right players for it. This is one of the maps where Frozen can absolutely dominate. It's a map where Rops can absolutely dominate. It's a map where even BMAS has seen an incredible surge in his performance. And then Chris J. I think this is a really cool one for Chris, because if he can get that op online in the very first map of the best of 5, then all of a sudden it sets the tone. It sets the precedent. And I would hate to see him struggle on it, right, as an individual piece. Because Train is where this game begins. It is where mousesports' hopes currently lie. This is not an easy best of 5, but it does start now.
Probably their best chance to be able to pull out a first map, and a hard veto no matter how you toss it, but they know the best of 5 is coming. Kerrigan's been waiting for a moment like this his whole career. BMAS opening kill, Glaive answers back, and now they try to score a plant, but the bomb is going back through the brown halls, thinking about maybe getting into B, and BMAS will continue his rampage outside. It's actually huge he gets this kill. Eventually he'll get traded, but it opens lines into the B site for a plant.
Zibex gonna jump up, try to challenge Kerrigan in their faces, up in the grills of this Z train. He's taken back to 44 HP. Still stands though. Doing a very good job of just posturing so that the defense can't quite best him. But all the while, Dupree now slipping down the ramp. He sees what he needs. Rop's gonna get executed. That flank is fantastic from Astralis, and it's a CT-sided pistol win for the Danes.
Dupree playing some of his best CS at this event, looking very smart, looking very sharp, along with everybody else on the roster. Magic's come to form is not a coincidence when you talk about Glaive coming back on as an IGL, and that is also another scary thing about Astralis. It just feels like individuals, they go unnoticed a bit because the team aspect is so heightened, but the individuals are showing up in spades. mousesports do not win the round. They get a plant, and they'll just turn this into a deco, potentially looking for another one, but you can never write out a team here on a deco these days. Always a chance.
Especially mousesports. They've got the firepower for it. Strong Deagle players. Frozen in BMAS. Big time in BMAS. Kerrigan gets wrecked. I'm very curious to, as the gun rounds get going, keeping an eye on Kerrigan. It was versus Heroic last week that I think Kerrigan's new playstyle and his new success was very much apparent. Constantly getting out from T-Con, challenging Olaf, walking through smokes, and we were sat there questioning whether it was just a matter of chance or if it's a hard read, but definitely taking early gambles. And if he's going to get shut down by the big brains of Astralis, then I think Mouse suddenly do need that extra level from their fragging pieces. Obviously, the Desert Eagles have been smoked off this round, so they never even had that long-distance range of engagement, never had a chance to rattle the heads of Astralis, who have so far minimized all threats.
It's been very clear that Glaive has, and Zonic and whoever else is helping them prepare, has gone off of what they have seen in this tournament from the other teams. I mean, for Furia, it was watching whatever demos they could find, but they have specifically attacked what appeared to be the problem for their opponents. And as you're referencing versus Heroic, Borup dying constantly in the sandwich as Kerrigan would just walk out of T-Con over and over again. We're going to look for that on this CT side for something that they're going to try to attack.
Frozen's got 2 to his name. He loses all his teammates, and Device, finishes a round with a pistol headshot.
Don't get me started on this again, man. After yesterday, 4-0 for Device, a couple of USP headshots for a couple for $600 in the bank. Buy up here for mousesports, and now we'll see. I was a bit at that time when Kerrigan was doing this versus Heroic. I was a bit pessimistic about where that was coming from, whether it was some luck involved. It felt like Borup was looking for it sometimes, but he was getting caught off. So this will be the real test. This will be the real test of the T side to see if Kerrigan can pull that off again.
True that. Double frag grenade. Kerrigan losing 40 health to those.
See, they're looking for him. Those deep grenades right in front of the smoke early on.
Yeah, the previous round as well, we had Glaive get aggressive and just pummel him through the smoke with some shots.
He's sweating.
So we'll have to keep our eyes on Astralis and the T-Con posturing, the pressuring, the pestering. More utility damage, which has just been, of course, a key feature of Astralis' CT side on what feels like every single map nowadays. You know, it all really began on Inferno. That's when everyone needed to learn how to use grenades to even keep up. But that has leaked over into the entire pool. Dupree peeks in, sees nothing for the time being. 50 seconds on the clock, and Rops, well, he's going to Molotov him out as Magisk mollies into the T-Con, pushing mousesports back.
Yeah, they're forcing here. mousesports do not want to make a decision just yet, but they've got the bomb outside T-Con, and they're pressing up for a split here outside, but they don't have T-Con control, and Frozen gets caught off guard. They are about to get melted down.
Yeah, gap in that smoke. He saw the ankles. Rops sees the eyes of Dupree. Magisk, nice commitment on the position, and BMAS will at least be able to trade that one. We've got 2 pieces of mousesports 3, incredibly low. Just a dozen health on 2. Chris J is able to come out from Ivy, but it's Device's scope that is firing off first and foremost. Rops knows he needs to concede, so a slow round from mousesports where they were able to dodge Astralis out the gate. Then we get a couple of kills each way, and it fizzles out at the very end, right when mousesports were on the cusp of finally committing.
Like waves crashing on a shore, they kept applying pressure into the T-Con first with their smoke and triple nade into Kerrigan, to the late T-Con control, to the Molotov to follow. They sussed out this split before they knew it was coming. mousesports knew they got red in this round, but they didn't have an answer back to stop it. You have to be able to apply pressure in a number of ways constantly to mask your game plan, and right now, Astralis had it way too comfortable on the A side.
Single AK for Rops. See if he can go God mode. You made this analogy yesterday, this comparison between Simple and Electronic to Rops and Frozen. And I think it reigns true in saying that, Rops, he turned heads because of his story and his route to the top. Frozen took it with him. It just so, at times, I would say still underrated. People don't realize Frozen is the real deal.
Is Rops the opera in my analogy?
No, but just in the pathing that they took. It's hard to be a star when there's already such a bright ray of hope. Rops, well, he's dead. Glaive doubling down onto BMAS. And Device, well, he's going to find himself another. It's just Frozen, 2 kills on the round. Flashbang goes over. Frozen, very little to lose here. It seems like mousesports have already conceded the round, but 20 health, 2 Deagle headshots is all he needs. And of course, Frozen finds the first one. You need to fear this man.
If he had the bomb, we could talk. We'll see how this gets played, but Device can play around this. And again, Device has been putting up the clutches, very calm in the 1v1s. Frozen going to look for this kill. He knows he was last spotted Ivy. Where he goes is the question. Sitting Hell might be a least expected option, but look at the way that Frozen's approaching the site. He might come in and clear this. Oh, just a good spot for Device. He wins the 1v1. He's 8-0 in 4 rounds, and he's making it look easy once again. The kills are good. It comes down to a 1v1, but they don't win the round, and Astralis still have money to buy. Let's see what you got, mousesports. Last rifle round, completely outclassed. Still a lot of options left here on Train, though.
I think the fact that they made so many waves in that last round could bode well for mousesports. They were working with a little and they obtained a lot, but Device, unstoppable for the time being. Chris J's posted on this. I don't think Chris J can afford as many missed shots as he had versus Godsend. I don't think anybody can afford to be off their game in this BO5. Not if mousesports truly want to contest it. Device, he's going to get Chris slipping right into the scope. And then he dives down into the B site, falls back in a very comfortable 5 versus 3. It's Magisk and Device with the first 2 kills.
Kerrigan dies coming out of T-Con out towards Olaf, so that's a big kill again. Again, a lot of mousesports' T-side was based around these pushes, and Chris J jumps over the railing because his teammate dies. That's why they speed the round up a little bit, so it just allows Astralis to get 1 kill followed by a second one very easily. Ladder control is something I expect mousesports to be pretty good at taking. On T-side and CT side, this got strong pieces here. Rops is usually the one lurking, holding the inner flank, working ladder. On the CT side, we've got Frozen to come through. Both, again, very consistent features of this team at the moment.
Got Device back at the depths of the B site. Xyp9x, nice and personally close in their faces, ready to go as the smokes shower through. He puts the incendiary down. That's going to move Frozen right into the crosshair. Tries to get it with the spray, but that upper smoke almost gave BMAS what he needed to get 1 kill and alleviate the front runner from Astralis. But BMAS drops down into Xyp9x, who does die at the hands of Frozen. But because BMAS is no longer up high, Device certainly is. He is 10-0. 5 rounds deep. Let's see, Rob. 1 versus 4 with the sniper rifle, trying to catch a shoulder at a distance, and he hits it, but he doesn't have enough time to get that op back on cycle. Rops showing promise. mousesports finding openings, but Astralis taking every single round so far.
Yeah, they're finding these. They're at least getting into the round at some point, but like a bomb plant is cool. They just don't have control. It doesn't look like they're ever going to win. And it definitely isn't true. It doesn't seem like they have actually given themselves good odds out of the start of the round. But we have another bye back-to-back. And I swear, you know, Rob's, he's a better player than Chris, but he's not going to necessarily be a better opper all the time. Personality-wise, he just would not be able to take over a round every single time. So they have to rely on Chris to do well. Glaive will get in their face, shutting down Kerrigan and his teammate BMAS looking to trade. Outer Exec is getting stopped in its tracks.
Rob's able to trade, and he gets Magisk. Quick kill, but taken off of the train. It's all on Chris J.
Whoa, he was crouched. That was through the train.
Yeah, Device. Starting off this series exactly where he ended versus Furia. On top and on point. But Chris J's on site, and he does have the bomb. Device just going to stay tucked inside of Z. Chris, he's been spotted, and he will find 1 kill, but that activates Device, who is 12-0.
Yeah, he's telling you. I mean, he's been getting just like 20 or so kills, but every single one of those kills has been pretty insane. This is all about Glaive, the ultimate sandwich player here, who is doing so well here out in the open. As a sandwich guy, you're usually on the inside of the smokes when it comes to the execute, so you've really got to just face forward, trust your instincts, move around a lot, and look for kills.
mousesports are the best team at the tournament for winning 5v4s, while Astralis are the best at winning 4v5s.
So Astralis, I think they stole that stat from Furia. I can't remember where I read that. Their 5v4 win percentage was really, really high. But
Was it Gambit?
sorry.
I think it might have been Gambit.
No, it's definitely. I mean, Furia's is the best in the world.
Furia was like best in the world
Okay.
at one
Yeah.
point. So, but of course, inflated with the NA stats. But yeah, I think you mentioned
at the
Gambits were up there
tournament.
as well.
Yeah, just at the tournament.
A lot of strong rosters in these 4v5 situations. But of course, no one's hit more records in terms of statistics over Astralis. And they're definitely in gamer form at the moment. So Glaive takes an aggressive option outside of Ivy. Now they don't need to necessarily push through T-Con. Frozen, we'll see if he comes and clears this. He seems like he's being very careful about it, and that's an opening kill. Glaive does not get a shot off.
M4 picked up as well. But he is still very much alone on Ivy. With that kill up in the upper halls, check out this little movement. Device, he's fallen all the way onto the opposite side of the map, and, well, it's where their teammate dies that 2Ts decide to get a little more adventurous. They're trying to peek into the B site using Chris J's scout.
He's been spotted.
Xyp9x over towards the oil tankard. We've got a little movement from Dupree inside of Pop Dog. Smoke comes out from Z, but this is a bomb plant out of mousesports, just slipping through, using a corpse for cover. Chris J flashes deep, as we have Astralis scrambling into the B. Boxhalls firing back and unable to catch anything with his sidearm. Device, 3 kills on the round again. And Frozen, how does he even get his head into this play? How does he get his head into this game when you have everyone from Astralis popping off at this moment? I am talking 15 kills, 0 deaths, 7-0 lead. Device is taking over.
And again, 0 hard shots. When I'm casting Device, he will always get his praise. This is something insane from him, and we've seen nothing but lame highlights all tournament because of how easy he's made the game look.
That's the beauty of Device. So damn good, he makes it look easy. Frozen, quick trade frag.
There's been a couple of famous maps where Magisk has picked up the op on train. Kind of like comes in like Rop's like, oh, what the hell? He's actually an amazing opper. So far, now it looks like the pace is being turned up a bit. mousesports getting melted down again. Their map pick, 7-0 start. My God, Astralis, hard to overcome. That initial meticulous game plan got shut down by mousesports. They tried to go back to the Kerrigan lurks. That got shut down, absolutely. They do a faster exec, no games required. That gets shut down. And now Astralis, again, it's like condition them to be scared of everything and now can start to take more egregious peaks when it comes to their pushes, and that's working too.
On top of one another within the ladder, waiting for the fires to fade, and, well, it's a good trade. But of course, it still loses them a body. So we're going to have to see it between BMAS and Frozen. They both still have utility. They've got 35 seconds to find footing on the A site. With 2 CTs inside of Z, they won't find anybody out in the open. They're still hoping. Device down deep on Ivy, scoped in. Could be a little bit of an op combat if Frozen looks over onto Ivy, but first he sees the player in Z and then he slips right into the scope of Device. It is shut down. Astralis, 8 rounds and no signs of stutters.
Yeah. Let's set some records. 60-0 here for Device, 8-0 for Astralis. Another bye round for mousesports as they are just teaming with loss bonus. They are doing some damage, actually. The money isn't amazing for Astralis, so if there's ever going to be a comeback, this is the best set of parameters to make that happen. Astralis, they win 1 or 2 rifle rounds. Astralis will have to save. Loss bonus be on mousesports' side. It's just we don't see what the ideas can be to allow mousesports to win a round. So far, they're getting out-dueled and out-game planned.
Blake sees BMAS slip out into Olaf. Rops is going to take damage. BMAS trying to push through, and, well, he does have Magisk in a bit of a pressured spot. Kerrigan finds the better of the timing through Ivy. And this is going to pull Device away from the B site, back around through CT spawn. BMAS sees Glaive's hand. Now he's in a tricky position, and he's already down to half health, but Device, he finds it. Kerrigan, a little more occupied with the A site, but the bomb's going to challenge down B ramp, and Zipex, well, he does not know this at all. By the time he peeks back out, he sees a player. But BMAS doing such a good job of serving up frags here on the outer yard. He gets 2 kills to his name. Is this the first round Device is slain? Because he's 17-0 still. He's got 2 players straight ahead of him.
Yeah, unlikely that they pull this retake off, but here's a chance. mousesports, they really do want to get one over economically, so it might be a bit risky to go for the push to get them in the exits, but I think they have an idea of where they might be, and there's a chance now that they could potentially punish, but they're starting to peel back the other way. Chris could be the one, the death dealer. We'll see what's written in his death note. Device there or not. Will he jump around the corner? Zipix isn't watching this flank. Oh, he doesn't move out. So the save comes in and mousesports win a clean round. So here they actually are able to create the chaos that they're looking for. They get outside, BMAS stays alive, and of course they could still lose, but they do maintain, like, it appears good communication in these moments to stay on the same page. Instant tack timeout call for Astralis.
Kerrigan played with Glaive on the Copenhagen Wars and in Faculty in 2013/14, and then against him for mousesports in 2014. Of course, Kerrigan played on Astralis before Glaive came into the roster.
The 2 best in-game leaders in the world, should we say?
Kerrigan and Glaive?
Yes, sir.
I think the argument for Glaive is just done. Like, he is the best IGL of all time. For Kerrigan, he's like, he's up there. Like, I think there's a good argument for whatever, top 2, but I don't think it's as solid as Glaive. Like, there's just no... In terms of accolades, like, if there's anything that can win that for an IGL, it's how decorated you are, right? So that's just period when it comes to Astralis.
Yeah. Glaive. As many pins as General Anders. Molotovs exchanged here towards T-Con. Kerrigan, he's found a good bit of timing. Dupree's going to be preoccupied, but he does find the double. And even Zipex kind of has his head turned, so sure enough, Kerrigan slips through smoke onto Ivy. Magisk never sees it coming. And Device, he still keeps fighting. 18 kills, 0 deaths. And obviously Astralis very much aware that the backside of the A site is open for the taking. mousesports trying to get that bomb over fast enough to maximize this moment, because soon the utility's burned out and all of a sudden Device is looking to get into this fight. He swapped over to the AK and he wastes no time, but he's down. Finally, somebody's killed this man. Chris J with the headshot. Zipex with the attempted flick, cannot find what he needs. Kerrigan wasting 0 seconds, running down Olaf, walking through that Ivy smoke. It took distractions on the forefront for Astralis. We saw Zipex inside of Pop Dog, and we saw, I believe, Dupree over on the T-Con. Magisk was unaware that a player was so close, and the moment he dies, we find mousesports with an outer sight hit.
Now we're cooking a little bit. We got the jambalaya on the stove. Okay, they've got the spices in the pot. They're starting to smell them. We've got a situation where Astralis don't have the money. mousesports have full loss bonus on their side. So it could be a round where they really stabilize their economy. This is where the comebacks were meant to happen. And mousesports did a good job of doing damage throughout all of these rounds that they lost. So they put that coveted 2 in a row together. And now Astralis are a bit worried. So what's changed? mousesports have upped the tempo a bit. And sometimes it's hard to read their T side, but that's what's working so well for them. They go fast. They do not slow it down where Astralis can really put their protocols in place, deny T-Con control or any of that. They just take it outside quickly and make a lot of space.
You know, one of the features of mousesports game versus Godsent yesterday was absolutely this ability to turn around the halves within halves. We saw them go down 6 rounds in a row to close on Mirage. The problem, of course, for mousesports is that I think Astralis, unlike Godsent, are going to be able to adapt to their enemies' adaptations way faster. It's tough to get ahead of Astralis in the first place, let alone keep it fresh enough that they don't catch right back up. This pistol, or this round rather, with just pistols, a very strong statement from mousesports. 5 players still up, barely any utility even needed, and a 3rd T round to the board.
Yeah, this is definitely, and this is about the fact that mousesports can put together a pretty, reasonable half potentially with just the help of, winning the 2 rounds in a row, the economy getting into a rough spot. Astralis will buy down to 0 again, so this would be easiest path back. Even if we call Astralis the better team in this half, the way that mousesports are able to manufacture a couple of rounds, if they can do that one more time, they'll have a very reasonable situation where Astralis have pretty much already met their quota. So it looks like they're going to keep the tempo high again. I love this from mousesports, but let's see if it works out.
Drops. Oh my God. How does he recover?
Crazy, man.
On top of it, Kerrigan, he's going to find a kill and double down on his own.
Let's go.
Kerrigan leading by example in these recent rounds, smashing himself against this A-site hold. And it's not much of a hold in this one.
Yeah, you kind of have to stand, in awe of Kerrigan when it comes to figuring things out. He's proving it versus Astralis is the very last thing that they have to do at this event. He's proved it versus every single other opponent. This will absolutely be the final boss in more ways than one. His former team, the best team of all time, a team coming back to form, the team that got knocked down to the lower bracket they avoided this entire time. And the team that has smashed through every single thing that has been thrown down, as you drew the analogy, the alligators in the moat. And yes, they just turn the tempo way up. They catch Glaive off guard. Robs hits this insane, it's like he's playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater or something. Jumped off a skateboard, turned around. Mr. Cool. Pistols again.
A little bit bigger this time. A few deagles at least in the mix. Kerrigan, such fluidity when it comes to pushing down Olaf. He sees an easy headshot, not gonna let that one slip by. And Glaive dies too at the hands of Frozen. So mousesports finding solutions on this outer yard. And nobody other than Device is really stepping up to his level.
Yeah, he's just mad his team is causing him to lose his KD. Frozen will take his cap. Zipic starts to move into play. Looking for the long-range Deeg, doesn't come. And it's already a very reasonable scoreline now. After a horrible start here from mousesports, confidence will start to build back up. They can maybe believe in the game plan a little bit more. Now it comes down to what do mousesports want to do. There's still the potential for fast inner hits and looking for aggressive openings if they think Astralis are going to try to push down Ivy or push up inside inner halls. I think the slow outside's probably got to be out at this point, but it feels like Astralis have not answered when it comes to the rushes.
Very smooth bounce back from mousesports. Was looking like we were going to have a one-sided affair here on Train. Got 2 rounds left to play in this half.
Very, very impressive stuff.
Chris J just going to keep the pop dog ladder honest.
They're throwing some grenades. I imagine, you know, if I'm Glaive, I'm thinking this is probably going to be an inner hit because they know that the slow outsides have failed badly. So look at Astralis rotating already. It's outer presence, but they took T-Con control. They got 3 inner now.
Kerrigan slips through, but Glaive's ready for that one. Good damage comes back. He's now on 13 health. Takes to the top of the train yard. Device finds BMAS and doubles down onto Rob. Zipex slips into the site. Frozen, all that's left over. So mousesports trying to change it up. Spreading across the map into a very even default. Looking to lock in on the B site, but they get nothing. Right back to their winning ways, Astralis, here in the 14th round. They shut it down. 1 kill from Device through smoke.
That was a big read, but I think at the same time it was a little bit almost, I don't want to say obvious, but, you know, it makes sense. It makes sense that this would be the time to kind of fake out map control and move into another exec. So late round Frozen's always been something fun to watch, but Astralis win in 9th. And again, they're there just in time. They read the situation perfectly. mousesports will call attack, and this is the most spicy round of all, right? They just got called out trying to go for some kind of fake after getting a couple of really good fast rounds outside, and then now trying to turn that into like an evolved game plan. Where do mousesports want to take it? Is it going to be something fast again?
Device has had 12 maps already this year with single-figure deaths. I wouldn't be surprised if one of those was Nuke yesterday.
The Immortal.
That's what he feels like at times.
In fact, you know what? I think I actually do have somewhere. I have what his deaths were in total for yesterday's series. He was 47 for 19 across 2 maps yesterday with a 1.66 overall rating.
So you're saying that's in the sports buff question, he is the answer?
Probably, yeah.
Well,
another fast one.
Maybe especially after this, yes, they go for the fast one. I personally like it. We haven't
right back to what we're...
Yeah, but the flash is perfect to Olaf.
So blind. So incredibly blind.
Oh, they actually don't go for the exec behind it. Interesting.
Here it comes, though. More utility over the top. Smoke over towards Z. We've got CTs within the site itself. Magic's going to be dropped by BMAS. And then there's Device. Comes crawling through the smoke with vengeance.
Oh,
Chris J. That could have been the shot to take it back into the 3v3, but instead both oppers stand for Astralis, and we're going to watch mousesports in a final attempt on this T side scramble over to the B side. There is definitely a chance that they get here fast enough, but you can see Astralis sussing out the situation. Zipex already in the station that he needs to be in. But Glaive, he's a little scoped in. Oh, Chris J saw him as he crossed, thought he was going to be able to catch him, and instead, it's all on Frozen. A 1 versus 4 to close the T side from mousesports that looked like it was never going to deliver. 5 rounds, certainly enough. When you consider that the last time these teams met on the 2 maps that Astralis beat them, it was the T sides where mousesports struggled. They could not get through the rock-solid defense of Astralis. And even though it's only 5, it's certainly enough.
days in the dark too long. All the gray between the right and wrong. Takes a warrior to sing this song. When the glory and the pain is gone, it's the failures that make you strong. And can you see the path they're walking on? We're moving up in the world. We're moving up in the world. We're moving up in the world. We're moving up. This is a warrior's world. 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 Yeah, I got love on my side on the one-way track. Racing like an animal, darling, all the way back to you. Once you put another X on the map, you're the only light. House on the hill or a satellite. Ooh, you keep me coming right back to you. Sometimes I get a little more than lonely. Sometimes I wanna play dead. Most nights I really, really hate me, but you get me out my head. You show me what love is. Home is more than where my stuff is. When I'm out of control, you bring Santa to my soul. Yeah, I got
An absolute grand finals form from Device to start on the CT side. He finished that half 22-4. But now mousesports. This is their first map pick of a best-of-5 grand finals. They knew they were going to be tested today. Kerrigan talking about the support he now has with Mither. Let's see what the game plan is. Let's see who can stop Astralis. Because at the time being, throughout this event, nobody seems to have been able to do it other than Godsent.
I think as good as BMass is, one of his biggest follies on the CT side is playing the same spot too many times. This is his favorite position to play at Ivy up against this wall. You watch one demo and you'll know about that. So it looks like Astralis wanted to attack this just for a second, and it actually causes the push inner. They squeeze out. It's not every day Rops will make a mistake in that situation, but it was all part of the plan here for Astralis. 5v4, and mousesports, they seem frozen in place. We've got some good info, at least from Frozen here outside at the in the box halls.
Double Molotov, double smoke. Where do those nades go? Time to find out. One deep on Ivy, one on Z. This is going to isolate Kerrigan and Chris J inside of the bomb site. Device finds the better of the timing, and it is headshots for Astralis. Device making it look way too easy to take over that outer site. So Astralis T-side start looks good.
They prime themselves. You get the 5v4, then they just go for the entry. So like, what's the weaker site going to be? They just make a judgment call, right? It's not based on complete information, but they have to just come through and hit their shots, and they do. Frozen doesn't get caught off. Always good for one when his team dies, but not much else for him to do except for save. So he'll walk away with this one half armor for Frozen. And strong round from Astralis. Opening tactics, get a kill. Moving into an exec. What more can you say about that? We're going to stay on device watch. What's he at, 23 and 4?
Should be 24, I think.
24 and 4. Plus 20. And round 17.
Double the amount of kills of the next highest fragger on Astralis.
Right. Smacking the KD. smacking everyone's KD.
The narrative
Back in the craft dinner right out of their hands.
Story of mousesports was them bringing up their skill floor. You know, Chris J, Kerrigan, BMAS all starting to slot in, but I don't know if it's even going to matter if he keeps it at this device. Feeling like the absolute best player in the world. Bomb plant down on the B site. All too easy with that first rapid entry. Astralis wasting no time in this grand finals to let mousesports get comfortable. Scout shot from Chris, gonna find something. But after that, it falls down onto BMAS. He has 3 players ahead of them, or him. He needs to be more than one person.
Sometimes he's like Ganesh, you know? He's all over the place. 3 kills. He slows down time. Bends ammo. Brings the bullet to them.
7-round lead for Astralis as the bomb pops. mousesports, they need to stabilize on the defense as fast as possible, or else this train game is going to leave them with such a small margin of error.
Only Astralis could come back in a train game in a grand final with this scoreline.
Another round with barely anything for Mouse, of course. Couple frag grenades, couple of Desert Eagles. Good thing BMAS survived. That does put the scout back in the hands of Chris. Let's see it. Oh, he just peeks into Dupree, who was just tapping off a couple shots. But that's a big 5v4. Kerrigan now with the task at hand. He finds himself a little bit of damage. That's Dupree to disengage. But obviously Astralis, they can take all the time they want to squeeze this lemon.
I like to take a bite of a lemon every once in a while.
Makes you feel alive. Drops. He's going to feel alive, but he's actually dead. Falls into the crosshair of Zipex. And Frozen, let's see it. The 3rd player on the scout for Mouse. Still only Magisk to have hit the dirt from Astralis. Frozen kind of relegated to the no man's land. BMAS, he's going to draw attention. That's perfect. That's exactly what they needed. But they need a little bit more, and it's not going to come. Dupree, he shows no mercy. Executes Frozen, puts Astralis on their 13th round. And of course, mousesports, now is their chance to buy.
mousesports, we're playing CSGO. Dupree was playing Dishonored. 13-5. And we'll finally get a buy. So whatever happened before this, just a result of the pistol. Now we'll see. Can mousesports stop the train before it departs the station? Here is an opening kill from Frozen. Again, Frozen at ladder. It's a brave duel to take. It's actually Dupree to come out of T-Con. Frozen fights him sideways. He is sitting in this spot. Glaive wants to make sure he gets out of here. Let's see what they do off of this, though. It's a single Molotov to push him backwards. They get the idea is here, but they're going to go for the double drop. However, that smoke means they cannot drop into it safely. So the protocols coming into place. All the while, mousesports haven't pushed anything quite yet. And we get that next Molotov to come through, and Frozen doesn't have 2 smokes. Knowing this, he'll have to leave. Double drop will be successful, and that's how you win ladder.
I see it completely clear. 2 CTs just outside of it, though. Definitely a chance mousesports could re-engage into ladder room and maybe rotate a 3rd piece into this B site before the commitment comes in. Chris J passive angle. Astralis execute, starts to be thrown out. Rock, he's not going to find himself a kill. It's tons of damage versus Glaive, but not the frag they needed. Chris to the top of the train, can't manage a second, even though he jumps right back down into the action. Kerrigan, that could be the frag that starts to turn the tables, but mousesports losing another player. It's just trade frag after trade frag, and it's going to leave Zipex up close on site. Magisk back behind him. Flash goes out. Zipex peeks. It's perfect, but BMAS, well, he's able to deliver the kill. Magisk going to find himself into the 1 versus 1. Kerrigan's the reason this retake got rolling, but Magisk has 3 kills on the round already.
Is he on it?
No. He buys the time, waits him out. Peek from Magisk, shut down, and mousesports they'll find a 6.
Okay. Wow, they barely grabbed that. That's a close call. Oh my god, actually, do they have it?
Oh! Less than a second left for the defuse. Kerrigan, he played it with everything he could.
Damn, you have to give credit to Magis for the late peak, right? You just, that, I mean, you feel like he comes down there. Of course,
Perfectly timed.
if a kit is in play, then we're talking. But Kerrigan, he does his best to get Magis out as soon as possible. I thought it was a UI bug that the bomb wasn't ticking, but he just didn't want to tap the bomb twice. Damn. Astralis win that way. Tough spot. But no matter for mousesports, they buy again. Kerrigan, another AUG dual 1 here. That's a nice opening, but it's answered back by a frag from Magisk. 4-on-4, always scary. CTs have been punished for pushing inner. So some of the necessary conditioning in place, and well, Chris J will just get eviscerated by an op shot from Device off the pallet. Oof. Testy situation here for mousesports. They're out in the open. They don't feel comfortable going for T-Con. They throw a nade in this direction, but they're not really close to it. They're just floating, really relying on a heroic outside hold. And Frozen will even start to walk towards inner. Astralis just waiting in place. Will feed into this fear even further with maybe a smoke and a flash here from Zipix. And the CTs, you better believe they're just going to sit and wait. They're happy to see this.
BMAS, matter of timing. Do not look away. Magis walks right into it. He is alone over on Ivy.
Yep.
But there's 2 players from Astralis coming out from T-Con, or rather just the one, Device. He's going to stick around, and as long as he has BMAS locked into this position, it's technically a 2v2 elsewhere. Device will not let off this angle.
No reason. Only the big flank that could come in eventually. But he knows BMAS is still here.
Ice in his veins.
Memory of an elephant.
Frozen, he's already been able to come up to the A site. That's going to find Dupree with his back turn. They were finally sending a second T over to deal with BMAS. He has been so patient in this position, and he's still waiting, which now enables an additional flank from Rops. But Device gets the kill he needs, and Rops then finds his flank. It's a bomb tap. Zipex, ooh, he calls him out, just jiggle peeking the angle. Frozen, he's going to try to give chase, but that bomb's going to blow up, and Astralis, they will have 15 rounds. I thought BMAS was eventually going to crack under the pressure, but he waited, and it almost all worked out. If Rops is able to extend out from T-Con without killing Device and catching Zipex in the open, then that defuse comes through.
They had the time ticks down because they have too much resting on this one kill, right? They have them locked in. They have the one player inside. They faked inside. They have the one player in T-Con holding that push.
The last 3 times these teams have met, Rops has been the only player on mousesports to go positive as they lose. When they won, he went plus 31.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, sometimes Rops does top frag when they lose just because he dies the least because of his positions. So his stats actually do get inflated a little bit because of that, but that's not to say that, of course, he doesn't earn every kill that he gets. He outguns everybody. But it's just a lot of that comes down to role, I think. But yeah, I mean, Astralis are like, if you don't make a play, we do have time on our side once this bomb gets planted.
Things must be feeling dire in the mousesports camp. Device gonna find the damage through the smoke. BMAS walks onto the grenade. A booby trap with the utility. BMAS lucky to be alive. Frozen not so lucky. Dead already. Device is 26-7. 20 rounds deep and still above 100 ADR. And Astralis, they're just going to squeeze mousesports in this position. You can see Mouse trying to find the information. Scout shot snapped up from Chris.
They're just so good. Every single place that wants to get poked into, there's somebody waiting for it. Device is that guy now. Kerrigan comes out. Oh, just as he falls back. I think Kerrigan gets spotted now, so unlucky timing both ways. But yeah, Astralis have more players in place to deal with it. Device specifically leaves when Magus comes in, right? So here he is, Kerrigan hunted down and killed.
We get mousesports scrambling back onto the A site. This is it. A 16th round looking likely. Chris J going to try to pull out some heroics with that additional kill. It turns back at least Device, the heaviest hitter of Astralis in this first map of a BO5. That mousesports were looking to start with a map win. Then, oh, Magisk! He just lines up two-player as if you need to break mousesports any more than you already have. He snatches it away, but Rops will not go down without a fight. Couple of kills in the 1 versus 4. He's spotted and dealt with. Astralis with a statement here on Train. We said that with mousesports coming in with the pick, that they could set the tone. They could set the tempo. They could set that precedent in this series, but they set nothing. They need to now reset before map 2.
They really do, because mousesports didn't get a single CT round in that second half, so it's back to the drawing board for them, and it's going to a break for us. Mousesports chose to kick off this best-of-5 final with Train because it felt like the best option. But they couldn't better an on-point Astralis, who topped off a solid defense with a perfect, well-timed T-side. Launders, what was lacking in that Mousesports T-side?
Yeah, I mean, it's sexy to talk about Device and his huge KD and how he really popped off. And that was part of the story of why it was maybe such a steep half. But overall, it was clearly mousesports were never going to win that half. They were never the better team. They were not prepared enough. They didn't have enough layers to their attack to keep up. Astralis read their initial game plan. They won all of the early rounds on the merit of their rotations and where they took map control, whether it was stopping Kerrigan come out of T-Con to pushing it late, the way that they pushed Frozen out of ladders so perfectly with all those protocols. Every single thing they did was perfect, was absolutely perfect, and they knew what was coming, and they stopped Kerrigan in his tracks.
I mean, it's always fun, though, to talk about Device. I saw a tweet from our friend Maniac, who's going to be covering the NA finals later. He mentioned that Device is basically optimized. And I was wondering, is that just down to purely Device, or is that down to the team around him?
I'd say it's down to the team around him as well. Like Mohan's talking about, right? We were seeing Kerrigan get shut down in T-Con right from the get-go. We saw Ivy never really compromised until Kerrigan really upped the tempo with some of those Olaf charges. So I feel like Device, he's primed to succeed in this game because every time he was rotating, every time that Astralis were even tested, you know, they still had the upper hand. It's not like Device gets these kinds of stats based off of clutch round after clutch round. He gets these stats after the fact that they're already up into these 5 versus 4 situations so consistently. So yes, Device, I mean, we know his individuals are fantastic. We know he looks like an absolute boulder on a CT side, but I mean, he was never in a pressured situation because every round seems so comfortable.
Yeah, no, I think he does get some of the 5v4s, but it's true. He's set up to not die in this game, and so he just slots in perfectly. Like, the game plan's perfect, and Device plays his positions perfect. So everything just tumbles down like an avalanche. He's always in a position to get kills, 2 or 3 kills in a round, and you're like, why isn't he flashed? It's like, well, they didn't expect him to be there. That's because of how smart he is, and he's the best opera to watch for demos. He is the very best.
It doesn't sound sexy, but I want to talk about clocks because the timing from Astralis was just heads above the competition. Just those 1v1s, for example, it was literally like Zip and Magix. They had the inner timer in their head. I don't know if they knew that I think was it Kerrigan who was on the bomb before? No, it wasn't Kerrigan. I can't remember who it was. It was Kerrigan on the bomb, and he didn't have a kit. And Magix, I don't know if he knew that or not, but he didn't hear the timing.
Yeah, he just knows like how much time he has to work with. Of course, Kerrigan could have had a kit in that place. That's something he doesn't know, so maybe that bomb could have got stuck. But in terms of timings, yes, like in that last round, for example, where BMAS is sitting at Hell and Device has it locked off. He spotted him, and there's players in Z rotating out from B. Like, Astralis already know they win that round as long as BMAS doesn't make a play. The big flank takes too long, and then they win on time. In terms of timings, it looks like, damn, they got so unlucky here and there, but Astralis made it possible for that to look unreasonable.
Well, we're heading to Inferno next. I have a feeling that this is going to be a little bit of a nerve-wracking one for mousesports, but they've obviously been playing Inferno a lot recently themselves. So we are going to head to a short break, and when we come back, it's going to be fiery.